Story 1. High school was easy, too easy. I never studied, never had to, and never learned to. I went to college and suddenly things were not as easy. While everybody else buried their heads in books, meeting goals and passing exams, I could not. My brain, which was not used to studying, just switched off after 10 minutes of reading. Story 2. I went to academic research and realized it was an environment focused more on ego and flattery than the pursuit of truth. Story 3. Drugs and alcohol are the primary factors. Mental health is also affected, but it is difficult to determine the extent to which it was influenced by the first factor. Story 4. Not a high achiever, but really good in social ways. When I became a teenager, I became so weird and annoying that nowadays I am afraid to approach people because I fear being seen as annoying and weird again. Story 5. Thinking hard work and talent were more important than connections. Not having the necessary connections prevented an early career. I did manage to get a decent career later, but nothing special. Story 6. Nothing. It is more important to live a life that is authentic to my own contentment than to someone else's idea of success. Story 7. I did not have to try at school, but I do have to try in real life. I never learned how to try, so I struggle with hard things. I am by no means unsuccessful. I own a house, I am progressing in my job, and I have a degree. But I know I could have done much better if I had learned how to work hard. Story 8. I was a high achiever in school, college, and during the first few years of work. Then it hit me that there is always something we keep running for. A better title, a big house, a higher paycheck, and so on. What is the meaning of this, and why should I continue doing it? Felt like the hustle was not worth it. Now I live an average life, have enough to maintain my standard of living. I'm free from noise and unnecessary competition, and I feel that all I truly value is good health and genuine relationships. I am sure many will not understand this and may think something went wrong. Story 9. I did not know what love was, and I accepted abuse and rape. I do not have my little self's energy and drive anymore. Story 10. I did not perform well on the Scholastic Assessment Test. I attended a mid-tier school and did not put much effort into my academic career or anything else since then. Story 11. I enrolled in the wrong master's program. The industry collapsed, I am in a lot of debt, and I cannot get a job with or without my specialized degree. I wish I had just gone to trade school instead. Story 12. Nothing. Statistically, most of us are average, and long-term achievement depends on a range of factors including opportunity and desire. Regression to the mean is also important. It means that those of us who got lucky or developed faster as children will not necessarily end up ahead of those who were less lucky or developed slower. A final factor is that being practical and having strong social skills matter at least as much as intelligence. So those of us who are bright but neurodivergent might not advance as much in the long term. But you know what? Average is fine. Over time I have realized that just because I was in the top 1% on tests as a child does not mean I am obligated to be spectacularly high achieving now. I really love my life. Story 13. College costs too much. I never went, so now I do not have a high-paying job. If college were affordable, I would have a master's degree by now. Story 14. Parents' issues, lost focus, divorced. Private education ended, moved to public schooling. Perfect model changed for the worse. Story 15. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder and having children and putting everyone before myself. I am happy, though. I love my life and my children. I am just not super successful, but I would not trade it. Story 16. I am used to correct answers, many guardrails and guidelines, a predictable schedule, and the certainty of knowing that I am good at what I do. The real world has less of that. I am making my way through it. With some luck, there might still be a few easy answers, but if not, I will manage. Story 17. Nothing. High achievement and money are not the only definitions of success. Some people look at life and decide they want experiences rather than things, so they get off the treadmill and backpack around for a while, then do not get back on the treadmill the same way when they need money. Others decide they want relationships instead of high earnings, so they prioritize jobs that give them time for family and friends. Some people want to serve and make the world better, so they prioritize jobs that do that but might not pay extravagantly. Story 18. still trying to figure out what happened. I try not to think about it actively and appreciate what I have today, but somehow my mind is always in the past and how promising I was as a child. Story 19. The real world is different from school. I may be smart, but I am not capable and have very poor mental health. Being gifted in academics is not helping me anymore. I am just left with my incompetence, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and depression. Story 20. I like to socialize more than work or study. Physically, I get depressed being in one location all day. I have to be out and about. I am a driver now in the medical industry, and I love it, although my income will always be limited. However, there are great benefits and paid time off, so I can still live a fun life. This is without children, so I cannot imagine being able to take care of even one child like this. Story 21. Father died, and we lost our source of income. I did not feel like doing anything for 2 years and started failing at everything. Now, I am slowly starting to feel better and trying to make everyone around me feel proud again. Story 22. Anxiety. I could have studied for a higher degree, applied for leadership positions, and used opportunities to improve myself. But instead, I chose to know my limits. I am happy and a functional human being. The same may not be said if I continue to push myself the way I used to. It is better to be in an okay-paying job and avoid burnout than to have a high-paying job and suffer a mental breakdown. Story 23. What is the definition of an average life? If you are content and happy with yourself, that is basically the battle won. Being very wealthy and buying a new expensive car every year does not necessarily make you successful. Story 24. The efforts were never rewarded. So I downshifted and now I am just coasting through life, making the most money with the least amount of work I can get away with. Story 25. I was taught to believe that if you did not get a degree, you were not going anywhere, mostly due to the United Kingdom school system. I had an alcoholic mother who was severely mentally unstable, younger siblings to take care of, and her addiction peaked right as I should have been starting my studies. I had to get a job to support the family, and between that and all the chaos at home, my studies became unmanageable. I fell so far behind that I could not see any option other than to leave. I truly believed I was destined for nothing and bounced around unpleasant jobs. I got a job in a bar, tried a few office jobs and hated them, then worked as a carer because I thought at least if I was doing unpleasant jobs, it was giving something back to the world. Only now, at 30, did I realize that education is not everything. I wish someone had told me that. I wish there was more emphasis on doing something you love rather than getting a degree for the sake of not being a failure. Most of my friends who have degrees are not working in their field of choice and feel they wasted all that money on nothing. But that is what school told us. Get a degree or look forward to stacking shelves your whole life. Story 26. What is meant by average life? If it means average income, it does not mean that something went wrong. Story 27. My school achievements were spectacular in my major, but just average in other areas. So I did not qualify for many scholarships. My mother took half of my college fund for my father to buy me from her and lost it. Seriously, she cannot remember where she put it. Therefore, I could not afford to finish my degree. Story 28. I got sick of trying to work alongside people with zero common sense and low standards and crashed and burned. I found out later that I am autistic and the problem is me. The simpler and lower pressure I keep things now, the better it works, but it means I have achieved nothing of note in life after being expected to change the world. I am happy if that counts for anything. Story 29. Bold to assume that I have to be a multimillionaire or something to be happy. I am married, I have an awesome dog, and a job that does not stress me out. As far as I am concerned, I am doing just fine. Story 30. It is important to note that what many people consider average is likely much higher than they realize. Additionally, being a high achiever in one school may not be as significant at the national or global level. Story 31. It seems to me that success at school is often related to pressure from parents or comparisons to peers. At school, it is easy to compete because of a rigid framework with grades and so on. However, in life after school, this becomes a hindrance because people's paths diverge. Everyone has a different path. It was easy to compare yourself to someone in your class when you had the same lessons and you studied more, while someone else barely moved up to a higher class but did not feel pressure to try. Often, such people have it easier because they do not compete. They do what they truly want to do. According to statistics, people who had worse grades at school later become employers and start successful companies. We, the model students, although we think we are smarter, often work for them because we have fears, such as fear of risk or making decisions. School controls, but you cannot control life in the same way as grades in math. I know this because I experienced it myself. Story 32. I learned to be very good at school. Real life requires many skills and mindsets that being good at school did not teach me at all. Perhaps being good at school allowed me to avoid learning those things for a long time. Story 33. High school was too easy. College was still easier. University was the easiest as I was studying literature and linguistics. But then things got difficult. My father met with an accident in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and remained in recovery for 6 months. Loans upon loans, and I couldn't continue university, so I had to drop out. Things have been tough. I spent 2 years in Saudi Arabia myself as well and came back with gallstones. But I recently landed a remote job that pays well, and I see my future as bright now. Alhamdulillah. Yes, I have been engaged for 2 years and am planning marriage next winter. Please keep me in your prayers. Story 34. High school was just too easy. I didn't learn to study properly until college. I might have been okay, but my mom died, and I found out my boyfriend was cheating on me. I kind of spiraled, lost my scholarship, and had to drop out. I did go back and finish in my 30s, and I ended up okay. Story 35. Burned out and lost my sense of direction, or maybe I never had one. Throughout kindergarten to 12th grade, I was always encouraged to go to college, but I never really thought about what to do afterward or how to start a career. Story 36. School was not a challenge, so I did well. College was not a challenge, so I did well too. University was not going to pay the bills I had, so I skipped it. I got a boring job and went through the motions for years. Life is hard. Really, I am just lazy. I take the easy path 90% of the time. I remember things easily, so I learned something once and coast. Recently, I got my act together and got a better job with some challenges, but still overall easy enough. I just have to put in some effort. The hardest part is getting up early. I'm not a morning person. So to answer your question, I got in my own way. Story 37. Went to university and completely fell out of love with it all. Dropped out after a year. Got a part-time job where my mother-in-law worked that had decent pay and never went back. Now earning more than I probably ever could in the job I originally wanted. Story 38. A slow and steady pace of studying did not work at university, so it was basically either burnout or becoming relaxed and not caring as much about success as before. After that, I chose a long degree and am currently undecided since I have completed the degree and am unsure if I still enjoy it. Story 39. I graduated in 2008 during the recession. I could not find a job. I found one and was then laid off due to coronavirus disease. I now have my own small business that may fail under our president. Basically, I live in the United States. Story 40. Needed encouragement to pursue medicine. Ended up getting married halfway through my engineering degree. I have been a mother since then. I am considering podiatry sometime in the next year. My school results never did me any favors. Story 41. My valedictorian is about 300 pounds overweight and writes code for Microsoft. As far as I know, he has never married or had children. The homecoming queen is overweight, with a large spare tire around her waist. She is still stuck in the countryside. Her jock boyfriend got into methamphetamine and ended up in prison. Story 42. I was never challenged and never learned how to try. Everything just came easily. Then the difficulty spike in higher education ruined me. Now, as I am approaching 40, I have my life together and I am doing well. But from my 20s until a few years ago, I struggled a lot. Story 43. Nothing went wrong. I am lazy, and an average life suits me fine. I chose easy, low-paid work at 16 over further education. then alcohol and drugs over obtaining qualifications that would have led to promotions and a better salary. For the last 10 years, my work would have given me £1,000 a year and 10% of my work time to get qualifications. I have no interest. I have been with my partner for nearly 40 years. We have children and grandchildren, and live in a 5-bedroom detached house. I have no regrets. Story 44. I had a very high opinion of myself early on, partly because other people constantly told me how smart I was. Everything came easily, and I never failed. Even early on, college was easy. But when I finally enrolled in some actual hard classes, it was like hitting a concrete wall. I had never faced failure and did not understand how to deal with it. That was the first time I dropped out of college. I think being equipped to deal with failure is one of the most important things children need to learn. Story 45. I was just complaining about this today. I didn't have proper guidance, for one. I took all the right classes and got all the right grades, but when it came to things outside of what I could be taught in school, I was ignorant. I should have gotten the scholarship because I took the right classes to get it, but didn't know that I had to apply for it. I just thought it would show up one day after I passed the last necessary class. Didn't. I didn't know to ask or how. I ended up taking out loans. I chose a degree in something I was interested in instead of something I could make a realistic, solid career from. I graduated and went back for postgraduate studies because my GPA was 0.05% too low to get into the master's program. This was due to a paper that was turned in but lost by the teacher. I never turned in another copy because I couldn't find the save. I had the opportunity to rewrite it but didn't. This got me my first and only D and cost me the opportunity to get a master's degree. I could have rectified this in many ways but didn't. I went for postgraduate studies in teaching but dropped out before finishing due to imposter syndrome. I struggled through my 20s in dead-end jobs and stumbled into my office career with the federal government. I love my job. It doesn't pay much, but it's still 3 times more than I was making just 8 years before and had the potential to lead to good money pretty quickly if I played the game right. But those opportunities are currently shrinking, and I'm looking at having to rethink my immediate future plans. Maybe I'll do better this time around. In summary, due to ignorance and squandered opportunities, I wasted much of my potential in my early years. Story 46. Life happens. People fall sick, people die, responsibilities mount. Some people cannot handle it all. For those who continue, count your blessings and enjoy life. You never know what will happen tomorrow. Story 47. Life happened. A traumatic event in 10th grade caused me to drop out. I restarted school after 2 years and scored 91% in 12th grade. Though it affected my mental health, and I stopped participating in sports. I started graduation with a simple degree, wanting to pursue something else, but then got into an abusive relationship which delayed my graduation and led to an almost suicide attempt. Later, I developed a love for one of the subjects in my degree, history, but it has very little job demand. I had 2 best friends who helped me through suicidal thoughts but ended up losing both on good terms. I am 22, trying to rebuild everything. Family support is there and is the only reason I survived. Story 48. I thought life was not just a school exam. It is not only academic skills. It requires emotional resilience, risk-taking, networking, timing, and sometimes luck. Story 49. There needs to be a viable market for what you achieve. That is how you learn about agility and pivoting and develop transferable skills. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.